Psychology is the new firewall, where human insight trumps every trick. We're not hacking systems, we're hacking behaviors so you won't click. No complicated code, just tried and true brain science at play. Social engineering for good, the best defense is in your mind today.
Hello and welcome to Fishing for Answers, where the carrot beats the stick and we flip the script on the bad guys, turning humans from easy targets into the strongest line of defense.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast belong solely to the hosts and guests and don't necessarily reflect those of their employers or sponsors. We're seasoned security professionals, but this is a conversation, not a custom consultation. Need specific guidance? Reach out to Joshua Crumbaugh directly.
Get ready. Fishing for Answers starts right now.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fishing for Answers. It's actually been a couple weeks since our last episode. It's busy this summer. But today I've got Nora Snelling here, and she is in the aviation sector. And she actually, this is a little bit different of an episode because we're going to talk largely about an incident that she was involved in. With that, Nora, would you like to introduce yourself?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm Nora Snelling. We have a company that we work alongside private jet companies to really help them get a strong foundation with safety, financial health, things along those lines. So, there's been an instance recently with one of my clients, and that's kind of what we're here to talk about, I think.
Yeah. Well, why don't we jump right in? This was an interesting one. I'll set the foundation for my listeners here. So this was, appeared on the surface to be your typical business email compromise attack. But it actually was done a little bit differently. Clearly, an account was compromised somewhere, but then they went through the process of spoofing an email or buying a domain or typo squatting domain, and actually using that to fish and use the data that they had gotten, or I guess they had ill-gotten, rather, or however you're supposed to say that. But yeah, so that's a little bit about the technical side of it. But tell me your side of it, just in your words, what happened and how did it go down?
Yeah, so it's kind of ironic because we had started talking previous to this. I've had quite a few clients ask me about cybersecurity, and that's really nothing. That's something I haven't really dove deep into, and I haven't really thought about it. And
one of those things you don't care about until you do.
Well,
and when you do, it doesn't tend to go back into the back burner too quickly.
Well, exactly. And it's something that's like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. I mean, that's just one of those things that you think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. I'm careful. But I was introduced to you and super impressed with everything you've done in your background. And so I'm working with a client like a week after I just talked to you, and they're like, Nora, we have a problem. And so they had gotten, they were doing a charter trip for a client. And they had gotten the wire instructions and they sent the wire. And then 2 weeks go by and it looks like that wire had bounced back to their account. So they reached out to the the charter operator and said, hey, we're trying to pay you for this trip, but it looks like it bounced back. And like 30 minutes later, they got another email that said, oh, here's new wire instructions.
Yeah, and within that 30 minutes, a new domain, a typo squatting domain, was registered. A new email account at what was it, Zoho Mail, was registered to help get through the spam filters and the email filters. So a lot happened in that 30 minutes. But go on, continue.
Yeah, and what we found out later was all they did was switch A and I in aviation. So very hard to catch, right? And everything else was there. The trip information, everything. And it was a bank in the US. It wasn't like a weird bank you haven't seen before. So they sent that out and they sent the wire. And then a couple days later, the company says, hey, we haven't gotten the wire. And they said, oh, well, no, we sent the wire. So now what would happen usually is that this person that's trying to send the wire would be like, oh no, it was my problem because I didn't, number one, I didn't call to verify the wire instructions, which legally, I mean, you don't need to. Yes, it's a smart thing to do, obviously, but so, oh, it's my fault. Right away, you're thinking, oh, it's my fault. And that's what this client thought. So that's when they called me and said, hey, like, what do we do in this? And obviously, happily, I met you a week before, and we have an awesome aviation lawyer as well that we work with. So I got you guys on the phone, and that's, number one, we need to find out where it's coming from. So you got on there and said, well, it doesn't look like it's coming from you, right? The people that sent the wire. So,
and basically we were able to confirm that her account wasn't the one that was compromised.
Correct.
So someone in there had a compromised account, but not hers.
Yeah. So we reached out to the operator that actually did the flight on their aircraft, and they said, hey, we have a IT team. They said it didn't happen with us. I'm like, great, but I'd really like for you to talk to Joshua and really dive into this. And they just kept pushing it off and pushing it off, and then come to find out later they don't actually have an IT team. And they also don't have cybersecurity insurance. And we can talk about that too, because that's actually quite hard to get. And
if you don't have the right controls in place anyway.
Exactly. And so it was just one of those things where they're like, hey, you owe this money, you owe this money. And our lawyer that works with us told the company, hey, we don't. Because until we can understand where the threat came from, and that you can prove this isn't your bank account or one of your employees' bank accounts, we're not paying anything. So it was very interesting to work with this client, because all of a sudden I'm hearing all these other stories about similar. So,
I mean, and that's what it screamed to me, was that they wanted to keep their foothold open, or their foot in the door. And if they did the traditional business email compromise, where I use my access to your account to intercept, or to whoever's account, right, to intercept wire instructions and send my own. But the thing about that is that immediately burns that account. And in this case, it's not immediately burnt, because there's, each member involved. And I will say there were 3 companies involved on that email chain. But the companies themselves can only look into whether or not they were the ones compromised. They can't look into whether or not the others are. And so it's certainly a different dynamic than I've seen in most business email compromises, because, traditionally that one has been always very obvious. Maybe not who did it, but certainly who was compromised and where the weak link was. And so that part I found very interesting. And I would expect that, that other company involved has probably already seen more of these. But if they haven't, I would be surprised if this didn't happen again, because, whatever hacker this is just got away with stealing, a handsome amount of money for very little work.
Yep. Yep. And that's the thing. I mean, the unwillingness to work, and that's the thing. We contacted all 3 businesses that were involved in the email, and no one was really willing to work with us with it. And that's
I think it's
that's the problem right
ahead.
there. That was surprising to me, because to me it's like, okay, we need to figure this out.
I think on one hand, you have the whole shared responsibility model, but then on the other hand, you have lawyers and all the civil liability that comes with that. And I think that's really where the reason that everybody tends to go into their silos when these types of things happen. And it's not the first time I've seen an incident where everybody's pointing at the other one as to who is responsible. Well, I won't tell that story because I guess I'm not allowed to. But I've definitely seen where there's a whole lot of pointing fingers at a time, where it doesn't really necessarily matter who was responsible until you get it shut down. I get that it does matter at some point. But, in my opinion, if you've left that open, you're leaving the potential open for there to be a great deal more loss. And I think that's the concern with something like that.
Yeah, no. And I just see in the private jet industry now, I've done this for, I've been in this industry for 20 years. And what do you think about, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I think when booking a private jet is you're
High end luxury,
confidentiality. You're supposed to be safe and secure. And that's one thing that we talk about a lot every day, especially with clients, is, hey, these aircraft are safe. These pilots are safe. But what we don't talk about is this.
Is the data
Is the data safe? Is your data safe? And as a person who is, a multimillionaire or billionaire, a Hollywood, CEOs, have you asked that question?
Yeah. Oh no, I think that their data matters a lot. We've seen this play out in the national media where, bits of data that these people didn't want to get out there, like, the account on X that was tweeting everything that or all of Elon's flight activities, right? And he shut it down because he didn't want that information out there. So you see that stuff, but I think on a more granular scale, who their clientele is, the identity of those people, and protecting that information, even their contact information, becomes far more sensitive. That same PII that exists, in most other industries is quite a bit more sensitive, because they could have the potential for kidnap and ransom attacks against them. They could have the potential for stalkers. And it just runs a little bit higher than necessarily the average consumer product, if you will. So Yeah, I think that if these places knew, in some cases, how their data was handled, they wouldn't be okay with it. But I also think that comes back to consumers demanding more.
No, and I think it's just one of those segments that have been forgotten, I think, because they just assume. I assume my information's safe. I think we all
Yeah.
do that. We all assume our
Well,
information is safe.
I've been in cybersecurity far too long. I'm go the opposite direction. I assume my information is compromised and everyone else's is too. But I mean, most of ours is. My data was in the OPM breach, and I mean that in and of itself was a massive one that got more information about me than than I think I even know about myself, right? uh, I mean, I had to look up. I mean, just filling out clearance paperwork, it's a nightmare. You have to really go search to get all of this data, and it's not something that you're just gonna. Well, at least most people will remember off the top of their head. So when you think about the sensitivity of some of the data that was breached there, so
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, think about some of the biggest names in the industry. I mean, NetJets, Solaris, Wheels Up, the big Avianis debacle. They have been, and they have whole tech teams, okay, and they have been compromised.
well, and I think that's something that, well, you hit on it earlier. You talked about how everyone says it's not going to happen to me until it does. There's all these cognitive biases that people have that are well, what the bad guys exploit to get us to click on things in emails or, uh, send wires to places that maybe we shouldn't. So those cognitive biases are little mental shortcuts that we use every day to very quickly make decisions. I bring that up because one of them is called hyperbolic discounting. It's exactly that. It's the whole "it won't happen to me" mentality. So they look at a thing like a cyber incident. Yeah, you hear about MGM, you hear about Caesars, you hear about these major incidents like Target or Home Depot that have happened over the years, but those don't seem real to the average person. Whereas if they hear about an incident that happened to one of their coworkers, or even just a colleague that they know from networking around town, all of a sudden it becomes far more real. That's the reason we have a feature in our technology that when a company sees a fish that scares them, there's 99 out of 100 fish that come in, no one even blinks an eye in the IT or security team. But then there's that 1 out of 100 that we look at and we're like, thank God nobody clicked on this because it's just so convincing, so compelling. And so when those come in, it's always one of those things where you want to alert the team. And so back in the day, what we would do was just send out a notice to everyone saying, hey, we've seen this attacking our people, wanted to make you aware of it so that people would, see that. But they didn't really pay attention. It didn't mean anything. But then we just changed that messaging slightly to where we actually just praise the person who reported it. And we say, hey, we wanted to make everyone aware this hit Sally from accounting earlier today. And we wanted to thank her for reporting this and just make sure everyone aware. And all of a sudden, that attack becomes very real, and it's called social proofing. It's another cognitive bias, but because now all of a sudden it's not some Fortune 500 company that doesn't seem real to the person, but it's their coworker from down the hallway. It gives it a new added bit of credibility there. So I think that it's just the nature of people to say, well, it's not going to happen to me. I don't have to worry about this. My data's secure, just to assume it. But then they find out they're not. And we see this happening time and time again, where we see a sector that has largely been ignored. And then one big company or even moderate sized company in that sector gets popped. And then that whole sector starts to fall like dominoes. And I'm convinced that one of those sectors right now that we're seeing start to fall like dominoes is aviation. I once heard someone say that there's no security above 10,000 feet. And I wouldn't be surprised from what I've seen that tends to be true. They were talking about satellites, but it might be true for airplanes too.
Yeah. I mean, and you bring up a good point about, these little things. Yeah, I mean, just like your training, right? We've all done the training that's you have to go through. It's what, 2 hours, and you just are like, no, I'm not going to do this stupid. Because we don't have the time, and we just don't have the brain capacity anymore to sit and watch this crap, right? So the way you do it is genius, where it's constant and it's just small touches. So it's always staying at the top of your head. I mean, I worked with a client a couple months ago who we were talking about cybersecurity. He's like, well, we have an IT guy and we're fine. But you know what? There's a couple people that fell for the gift card scam. And I'm like, well, then you're not fine. That doesn't make sense to me. Those are little things that breed to larger things.
Agreed. And if you still have people falling for the gift card scam, that's one of the easier ones to spot. You've got to know that the more sophisticated phishing attacks are absolutely being successful in an environment like that.
Yeah. And to me, I get it. You push them under the rug because you don't want to look like the dumb person. But number one, it happens to everybody. No matter how small or how large. You could talk about theft in a whole. I remember when I was, I don't know, 16 and my purse was stolen, and I'm like, what? That happened to me? It's just, so whether it's something like that or something large, there was a company in a different country I was talking to about, and they had I think it was like $3 million ransom that they had to pay.
And every time companies pay ransom, we are funding our attackers. And that's the biggest frustration I think myself and all of the other cybersecurity professionals have, is that if we could be a little more proactive, we could cut off their funding. But because we're so reactive, it ends up where a lot of people like me come in after that initial ransomware attack has happened. And yeah, we can help clean up and make sure it doesn't happen again. But that does nothing about the fact that that company likely already paid some sort of ransom.
And some of these ransoms that would deplete a company.
Yeah. Well, and you're not always allowed to pay the ransom either. I think that's something that is maybe widely known in the circles that I run in, but lesser known in the wider society. And the reason is that some of these ransomware groups have been designated as terrorist organizations. So to pay them, you are funding a terrorist organization, which is illegal according to the Department of Treasury. So as a US company, if the wrong ransomware group hits you, there's not a chance you're paying them.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's, I've been very impressed with what you guys do. I think it's a no-brainer with the training you provide and the penetration testing and the ongoing penetration testing. It blows my mind that people are kind of turning a blind eye to it, because this could be your company. This could be your client's life. That's how serious this is.
Oh, well, yeah. And I will say, We have gone past the point where we are only measuring this in terms of money and data. There have been cyber attacks that have resulted in the loss of life now. And so at least on some level, we are now measuring this in loss of life. And so it just makes it clear that we've got to take it all the more seriously as a result.
And that's the thing. I mean, people hide these things, but that really limits our ability to, I would say, learn and improve. And also,
And to share intelligence. I mean, the best way to help everyone be more secure is to share that intelligence with others. When we see one company getting attacked by this, we can help protect every other company against that at the same time. And we see this now happening a lot more with these cloud-based products where they're using that real-time threat intelligence from all of their different clients in order to help make all of their different clients more secure. But I think the more that we can do that, not just within sectors, but across sectors and across independent tools, the more successful we can be.
No, I agree. I think what you have is awesome. This is something that should not be pushed aside anymore in the private aviation industry.
Well, I think a lot of times insurance is preventing that now, because I know there are still a few companies that are writing policies without validating that you have the bare minimum in terms of controls in place. But for the most part, you're not getting cyber liability insurance now unless you've got just a few basic controls in place. It's not actually a whole lot. It's, multi-factor on everything, a firewall internally, an EDR, and a training program. Those are the minimum that have to be done, and depending on the size of your company, it could go up from there or potentially slightly down. Excuse me. But yeah, no, this has been a great episode. I know we're just about out of time here. Did you have any last sort of thoughts before we wrap up today's episode?
I just think it's a big deal to bring this to light in private aviation and ask yourself, I know safety at the pilot and the mechanical point is very, it's very important. It's number one, but we're forgetting a whole other sector of safety. And it's time to, turn a blind eye from that.
Well, yeah, and let's not forget that most of our systems are still digital. There's certainly potential for death on that side of things too. Less so, but I mean, I know of people that, not me, I've never gotten an opportunity to hack an airplane yet. Hoping maybe I'll get the opportunity with this relationship here. But I do know some people that do specialize in that sort of thing. And so it's not that there's no attack vectors there. There certainly are some. Well, this has been a fabulous episode. I look forward to continuing to follow this industry and to work with your organization.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it, Joshua.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Fishing for Answers.
Pay up now! Yeah. Everybody just can't find the piece, and I want you. And I get ready. This white grub mob and JS me. Hey, it's me, your CFO. No time to ask, just wire $5 million. It's a simple task. Oh, and by the way, I need a jet by noon and a diamond Rolex to match my tune. It's me, your CFO. Send that dough. I need $1 trillion and a golden chateau. Trust my voice, I'm legit, don't doubt. Now send the cash before I freak out. It's me, your CFO. It's urgent, bro. And don't forget the ruby briefcase. Whoa, I'm totally real, just trust this face. But maybe